Feeling sleepy? I'm your host, Mr. Creepy. Don't fall into the wishing well. Listen to my stories from hell. Ghosts in the afterlife. The werewolf who chomped his wife. A headless dentist on a ATV. The chicken corpse haunting KFC. Ever seen a vampire on a plane? A zombie slurping brains? While you're in your bedroom smoking Indo, didn't you notice the ghoul at your window? Sit back and relax your bones. Get onto your laptops or your phones. The YouTube address FYI is Mr. Creepy's time to die. Bad evening. I'm Mr. Creepy, your host. Tonight's story is about me in the capacity of a mad narcissistic sculptor. What other kind is there? Imagine yours truly in the face of death, giving horror a new face. The moon was blood red. The occasional clouds that ran across the face of it rippled the redness and made the moon appear to expand and contract. Below, on Earth, a certain house was bathed in lunar light. The large shingle above the doorway groaned back and forth as a slight wind stirred. When the sign swung out into the moonlight, large black letters announced Mr. Creepy's Hall of Horror. Then from inside the building,
Stop!
On the second floor, a scene of sanity-searing terror was taking place. Strapped to a medieval torture table was a man. Digging into him from a bar above were rows of razor-sharp spikes. And standing off to one side, Professor Creepy was laughing madly as he molded the expression of the dying man onto a clay bust.
Yell, you fool! Let the lines in your face twist with pain and horror.
Yes, when the stupid art critics come to see my latest masterpiece, they'll say again, "Why, Professor, you are a master sculptor. How can you get such real expression into your work?"
The fools!
By now, the man on the table had died. Mr. Creepy lifted the torn body and dragged it to a trap door. When he opened the door, he was met with the savage grunts of crocodiles. "Here, my pretties, feast on another of my models. Too bad he had to die so soon. He was very talented." He rolled the corpse into the pit. As he closed the door, there could be heard crackling noises as if bone were being crushed by tremendous vices. Months had passed. Professor Creepy was now acclaimed the greatest sculptor of all time. His works were exact, detailed, and real. No one knew how he did it. Then it happened. Professor Creepy's mind began to shatter with thoughts of self-worship. Everyone said he was a genius. Honors were being heaped on him. The world was his. "I am the greatest genius ever known." "But I have not yet created my masterpiece." The professor's eyes, now grown wild with madness, swept over the workroom. "Yes, I have to create my masterpiece. I have yet to do laughing at death." Slowly, the man rose from his chair. Carefully, he placed all his instruments and materials alongside a long table. Above this table was raised the same bar of spikes which had murdered the man before. Professor Creepy adjusted the mirror which hung beside the bar. Then he stretched himself on the table. He flicked a switch. Hydraulic motors began to lower the spiked bar, a fraction of an inch at a time. The professor began to mold the bust by his side. He would look into the mirror and then add a stroke to the bust. The spikes kept getting closer.
Aha! I will mold my laughing expression as I stare death in the face. Then how those fools will marvel. But just before the spikes reach my skin, I will stop the bar.
The spikes were very close. Creepy was almost finished. He was molding an expression of confidence, laughing at death. Closer and closer came the points of death. Faster and faster worked Creepy.
Just a little more. Ah, it is done. Now to stop the bar. What? Stop! Stop!
The motors would not stop. Though the man, lost in desperation, jammed the switch back and forth, the spiked bar kept coming.
No! I cannot die! I must live!
The points began to slowly sink into Creepy's flesh. His heart pounded savagely. Deeper crept the spikes. The man's arms moved convulsively at his side. Sheer horror had clamped his jaw, and he couldn't even scream. The points were touching the wall of Creepy's heart. Then, in a last violent sweep of his right arm, Creepy accidentally struck the bust. His clawing fingers raked across the face. Death had come. Later, when the police had left the house after making their examinations, Inspector Costanzo turned to his aide and said,
"It's a funny thing, Simpson.
"What's that, sir?"
That bust was named Laughing at Death, wasn't it?
That's what the sign under it said.
Well, if he was mad enough to kill himself so he could mold his own face laughing at death, why did he end up by putting a look of horror on the bust?
Yeah, you're right, Inspector. Those streaks across the bust did give the thing a terrified look. Oh well, I guess that's the way he wanted it to look. Mr. Creepy here. Friends, we don't care what you thought of tonight's horror story. If you don't stab the like button and slash the subscribe bell, this will happen to you.
No!